What is going on, guys? Today we are looking at the best defenders you can get in FC24. Let's go throughout all of the budgets. So, to start with, we've got 0 to about 250, give or take. And yes, there more than likely is some really low budgets that you might like. I'm just going off what I've kind of looked through, seen a few of the newer faces that obviously people want to try out. Everybody likes a new card and kind of slap them in. We have got honourable mentions like Lamptey, definitely not a bad option, but when it comes to the top of the defenders, these are kind of be some of the price budgets that you're looking at. So Virgil is always, to be honest, I think he's in every budget bar from one throughout how many cards he's genuinely got. He is just incredible. As we know, Virgil is the most broken centre-back in the game. From the gold to the inform, the second inform, the Nike, the winter wildcard, and the team of the year at the end. That is what it is. He is Virgil. I very much, if you've kind of played FIFA for not necessarily even just a little bit of time, but like most of it, like I'm talking FIFA 10, FIFA 12, you'd know Ramos was the exact same. Ramos was broken every single time. It's kind of like how Conte was at the beginning of kind of like his Chelsea career. I think he did Leicester, was a low card, got bumped up a little bit, and then the next one after that he had like 5 years where that was the CDM you wanted. Like Aguero, like Rooney, and then Messi, Ronaldo, as we know. But in terms of the defensive force, it was always Ramos. Ramos was the number one 100%. You could throw in a Company, a Rio, but they weren't quite as Ramos ability. So he's number one. To be honest, you could literally just put him in and then you just need 3 other positions for the rest of the game. Genuinely, that's how good he is. Everybody else then, so the left-hand side, I have chucked in a few SBCs that are not available. I believe they are going massive on the party bags. So whether we see a lot more year-end reviews, that's going to be where you're really going to find these two. They are arguably 2 of the best SBCs we've had for a left-back. You could argue between both of them as well. They have the whipped pass. Havertz obviously has a bit more height change because he is a shapeshifter, but then also has the 4-4, which acts as an extra ability that Backer doesn't have. Now we do have an upgraded Backer coming in very expensive, but only a 1 increase. We'll discuss her in a little bit. We have Bompasta. The one thing that I was meant to look at is she getting a fantasy foot? Because I vaguely remember her name being mentioned, but then I cannot remember if that was correct or not. I know Luis Diaz is. Here we go. Team 2. She is. So she is likely to get one this Friday, so tomorrow. So that will be an interesting one to see what sort of price she does come in at. Any more defenders? Mascherano is meant to be coming, and Lucio, obviously, we already knew. Okay, we'll be interested in that. Mascherano will be an interesting one if he's going to be a centre-back or a CDM. I'm kind of hoping they go more CDM with him, as centre-back just doesn't work for me. In terms of others, we've got a brand new SBC yesterday that, to be honest, the double playstyle plus on this card, it's phenomenal. We always love the anticipate. That's a number 1 100%. And then the slide tackle, I wasn't a big fan to start with because the argument was, I never really slide tackle. Like, genuinely, I don't go into a game thinking I'm going to do 5 slide tackles. Like, you know, I'm not planning my slide tackles, but you know, when you look back at a game and think, how many times did I actually slide? And actually, with Maldini, it's probably more than you think. And maybe, yes, it's different depending on the game level. If you're absolute top of the elite, more than likely you're just running people out of play, just running the ball back, getting the interceptions rather than necessarily sliding. As when you slide, if you miss it, then that's one player out of position. So normally you are told not to slide. But when you're just having fun and you're trying to get the ball back, slide tackle plus is going to be a decent one to get back. We also then have multiple cards that either do have a higher version or have had an SBC, and naturally Puyol, just his best card at the moment. 80 pace, it's a nice upgrade. Unfortunately didn't get the double playstyle plus, which I think would have been the better scenario for him, and it still mind boggles me today that he was ever a right back. I know early in his career that's kind of how we know him from, but it's just weird to think the absolute tank of a centre back was once a fullback. And yes, early in your career you might have just started there, brought it in. very much like Ramos, to be honest, but it did kind of make me chuckle that you could put him at right back, as he just cannot turn. We have Kim Min-jae. I feel like some of these could do with the upgrade, just like Blanc, just like Cancelo. They are now waiting on their next form. We need that one more, and Kim Min-jae is one step away from being definitely in the know. Aerial, you mix it with a slide tackle, a bruiser, and anticipate, that's going to be a pretty decent card. Company now has 2 other versions as well, with the UCL Hero and the Fantasy Foot, but even to this point, I'd still take the base Hero Company, still 225k. If you've taken count of how many hero picks we've had that do have just a base hero, so the minimum amount, that is a lot to keep him at 200k. Saliba, I have whacked in here because I do like him as a centre-back, but the highest version of him is an SBC and has obviously gone by now, so this is the only version you could have got if you haven't evolved anybody. If your team's looking like this, then I have the place for you. Head over to U7Buy for all your coin needs. They're cheap, fast, and reliable, but make sure to use JT11 at the checkout for 6% off all of your coin orders. Moving into the price point of about 250 to 500, we started to get a little bit more up there, and to be honest, like I said, you could go with Virgil as just the number 1 and then just pick anybody else. When it comes to this, you'll see full well that we have so many of the same cards. I think Teo has, 3 informs, Ultimate Dynasties. He's obviously got himself his Team of the Year. Think that's it, but that is a crazy amount of cards that you can pick from, and literally the prices are so sporadic. Like, we've got 78k for the 86, no playstyle plus, fair enough. We then jump to 334k for a centre-back version. And don't get me wrong, fair enough, it's a centre-back, but I'd still like him at the left-back. I don't think he necessarily screams centre-back. Kind of how Kyle Walker is, and you could argue they're both really the same. Very quick, decent defensive ability, but it's mainly that quickness that is putting them as the centre-back. Whereas I think when it comes to Kyle Walker, I think it's more just the nostalgic value of remembering what Kyle Walker as a centre-back truly was. And you could argue that Teo would be the same, but I really like him as a left-back personally. But then you can argue you got the 88, no plate style plus still, so none of them have anything different other than he is a left-back rather than a centre-back, and yet he is an extra 60k for a downgraded one. It's just an interesting take. We did get Alex Scott as an SBC. I actually think are pretty decently priced as well. Her and Gully, both relatively cheap for their card type. Normally heroes, icons, when they come to SBCs, they tend to be a little bit more expensive. I know Alex Scott is the more expensive out the two by about 170, but for a right back where I don't think this year there is, unless you're going for the team of the years obviously, there isn't necessarily a standout, you must go get this cheaper right back. Whereas when we look at the left backs, you've got multiple Furlan Mendes, multiple Davises, multiple Teos, you've got Baka, Havertz, Roberto Carlos, where they are all absolutely number 1 spots. You could argue, I prefer Furlan Mendy, I prefer Alfonso, and there's not really too much of a difference between them. Whereas when it comes to right backs, Walker is always a stapled one like that. That's a 100% one you could go for. You could argue Reece James, but then there's no 100% definition. The only one I would kind of come to conclusion, other than your Frimpong, is going to be Carfu, and definitely a bit more expensive. Whereas when it comes to the lower priced ones, you kind of just having a guess. I've still got Lorente Centurion's Evolution there, and he absolutely does a job still. So the arguments are definitely still there for the right back, and I think she's definitely got a few to offer. I have got Rico Lewis here. I still think he is definitely a good option, especially for a future star. You can still whack him in CDM, which is nice. But I think when it comes to him having him in your club is more the fact that, is he going to get another evolution or another increase on top of this card? Because realistically, if we look at him, he is I'm pretty sure a silver prior to this. Yeah, 73 silver straight into the 88. You know full well if he's getting an inform, they're not giving him an 89. So the only way this card does get better, whether he gets a team of the season or a community team of the season, it's very unlikely, is going to be through evolution. So that is a great starting point to have him as an evolution card. That's kind of why he's there. We then have Konate going on to the actual team. Beautiful card. And the big thing with fantasy, especially heroes and non-heroes, is they are upgradable. Like some of the UCL road to the finals, whereas the fantasy isn't necessarily guaranteed an upgrade, but most of them should get at least one. Whether it's the winning, whether it's the appearances, if they're not injured, because I do know a lot of them are injured, which is just the curse of fantasy. They should get at least one upgrade. Whereas Konate technically could go to a 91. That would be phenomenal. For 400k, I would pay that. Bruiser Relentless, maybe not the best playstyle pluses, but an absolute monster when it comes to a centre-back role. We have some of the normal faces. Lucio, like we said, is going to be getting a fantasy foot. That is going to be expensive. And I've already seen he's on like the, the graphic to start with for when you load into FIFA. So we already know he's got, 85 pace, I think it was. We just don't know the double playstyle plus. I hope they take block off him and give him like aerial and slide tackle. Don't even make him aerial anticipate, which... please. But I doubt that's going to happen because that literally would put him in extinction. Varane... again, could do with the upgrade, but even now, you still could argue he's absolutely cracked as always. Arejo's kind of more of the brand new meta coming through. Loved his base card. I felt like it was taking the game. Managed to get an inform. He got the radioactive, and now we're kind of just waiting for that next bit for him, but still could do a job. Cannavaro, SBC-wise, I like him. I'm still standing by aerial and acrobatic. Killed this card off. Love the aerial. It's obviously part of his base. Being 5'9", it works really well to just give him that little bit more of an advantage to actually head the ball. But the acrobatic for me just wasted this card. Maybe able to do defensive acrobatic skills in real life, but unfortunately this is a game, not real life. So that one for me is a bit of a low point for an SBC. I was really hoping for a good card, as Cannavaro was just always in my team. I don't know why. I always packed the prime, the base. I had at least a Cannavaro at some point at the start of FIFA every single year. And then obviously we have King and Campbell. King, a bit more of an expensive SBC, I'm not going to lie. I think they ruined him purely on the fact that they tried to push you down an objective with him, but gave you multiple loans. So really, there was no need to do him. You got the loans, you did the objective, everybody thought, he was okay. It's got the anticipate, which made him just as good as the rest, but unfortunately, the SBC for me at that time was a bit expensive. Whereas Campbell, he's definitely got a bit of sauce in him. Again, we're waiting for another upgrade for him. He still could do slight job, but I would pick so many other players over him, especially in the lower budget, like the Virgils, and obviously plenty of others in this list as well. Now, we start to get a bit more on the higher budget now. We're looking between 500 and a million, I think. Yeah, 500k to a million on these players. And to be honest, you could argue all of them. I am kind of susceptible to kind of take Bright out of it. I think she's definitely got the stats for it. I just don't know whether I'd put her in the list. I've kind of put her there out of respect for Team of the Years, but there's always an argument that she just really isn't the top dog in a Team of the Year. So she's there just out of respect for the Team of the Year. I'm arguing with her. We then have kind of the background here. We have got Rio. Love his version now. I think Rio definitely started the game where I'm like, we remember icon swaps. Base Rio was always there. He was always quick, very good on the tackling, and just an easy option to go for. Now they've taken away icon swaps, which I really am heartbroken by, because I loved the icon swaps. Playing the games, getting the massive rewards every like 2 months was brilliant. Now we quite don't get them. It just feels like we kind of wasted on some of these icons. And Rio, until it was the Team of the Year that came out, that's what really pushed him back up, because everybody remembered, oh wait, Rio is actually really decent in the game, and he has got the anticipate as well. Carfu, like I mentioned, is one of the best right backs you can get. He is an SBC, an easy one to finish at 540, very well priced, and I do think even now, you could definitely have him in the team and be absolutely fine. The only argument you could have is because we are so close to a foot birthday where there might be some good right backs, then into team of the season where everybody's cheat teams just change. You could argue that you don't want to spend the 540 now. Maybe do one of the Future Star Defender evolutions, because they gave us a couple of really good options there as a right back. I've had Lorente from the start of the game. I could probably deal with a Future Star there as well. So there is mixed arguments to where you want to take your team, and I think they are definitely valid. Baude, loved the card. Loved his Winter Wild card. I loved his... What did he have prior? He had something else. Was that it? I swear he had a different card, but he had So he's got his base, that was good. Pace was 91 straight off the base, love that. Then obviously we got the winter wildcard, added the ability of left back, right back. I think that's pretty decent for anybody that is struggling either side. And now this one, like we're going from 50k, a triple upgrade. He keeps the quick step plus, but then anticipate and goes up to 700. I don't know if I quite think 700's a respectable price. Like I say, with Bakker and Havertz, that is why for me right now, they are two arguably the best coin SBCs you could have physically done. If we move into the team, obviously we've got a handful of decent left backs. Roberto Carlos's base, obviously overshadowed by his future star now, but still a beautiful card you can go for. Alphonso Davies, that, to be honest, to start with, I thought was very expensive, especially when you looked at Bruno, you looked at Conte, Alex Morgan, obviously Davies as well. I was like 800k for a left back that realistically you could just have Bakker and be fine. He's still a very, very good left back. I just didn't know if I wanted to pay 800. A lot of people disagreed and said it was a relatively fair price, and I think to this day I could argue that you are quite right. Maybe the pricing of things now is way above what I'm used to, because I'm still kind of operating on not necessarily a FIFA 23 market, because we know this is a total different one. I just think the inflation of SBCs has got to a point now where, I said it the other day, what was it? There was someone that came out and they were like 400-500k, and I'm like, oh, that's easy to do. When really, it's definitely not that easy to do. It is still a bit of a grind, because they've given us so many million coin SBCs plus. 500k seems like nothing now. So it is kind of the same where I'm looking at 800 and thinking, you know what, that's a bit expensive, when actually in this game currency, it's probably not that bad. Lizarazu with a lovely upgrade for the fantasy foot. Still could get the double upgrade, which is nice. Quick step and slide tackle, decent playstyle pluses. And I think from the base was very mid. And just as a quick note, where is Capdevila? Like, genuinely, he was arguably one of the best left backs last year. Where is he? He's literally had nothing. Like, he's still just base. 86 rated, left in the corner to rot, and they are really going head on Bompasta, Lizarazu. They've eventually given Roberto Carlos one. It's just Capdevila and Zambrotta in both fullback roles that are just waiting for this upgrade. But Lizarazu's base, very, very mid. Not really kind of giving me any sort of options where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to choose him over an 82 Furlan Mendy. He then got the UCL upgrade, was happy, was a decent upgrade for him. And then we got this version where I knew was going to just be, again, another step up, which is exactly what he had. We then have Teo Hernandez as a Dynasties, the one prior to the Team of the Year, which is just phenomenal. Same as Frimpong on the other side. Both of them, what we're looking at, 760, 708. It was kind of what to come, really. We have the long ball throwing, which just looks even more hilarious now, but still a great right back, even without a proper playstyle plus. Whereas quick step for Teo is always a nice one. Like I said, we do have Saliba in the centre-back role. The SBC has unfortunately gone, so it is going to have to be year-in-review picks if we ever get them again, or any SBC that they eventually bring out as a pie bag that could get us this. But to be honest, I'd argue just go for the 87 now and wait for an evolution to take him one up. We then obviously have Carlos Alberto, arguably one of the better icon centre-backs you can get. I'd personally play him as a centre-back rather than a right-back, purely for, A, the fact that he can, because Carfu's going to be there, but then also the anticipate is beautiful for a centre-back. We then have Company's other version. This is where I'd argue, if you're looking at the base, I would rather go base than UCL, purely on a price perspective, but then the fantasy, with the fact that they more than likely will get potentially the double upgrade. Whether they do, it was a shame that Luton Town's game wasn't in the actual Premier League. Otherwise, they would literally need like 4 or 5 goals in the next 2 games, which if you're anything like City, you're more than likely getting. And then we have Ramos and Militao. We kind of have the new centre-backs for Real Madrid and the absolute iconic old one. Ramos is still good to this day, and it's mainly because A, they've boosted the pace up a little bit, but B, his in-game has always been perfect. Kind of how Ronaldo is as a striker, how Mbappe is as kind of the left-wing striker. They are perfect in design for the game. When you look at someone like a Muller, their stats don't correlate with how they should play in the game. You've always got to remember that. It's the same with Scholes, Lampard and Gerrard. They aren't necessarily the 90 pace midfielders with incredible shooting and defending. They're kind of one or the other. Whereas Ramos is tall, 6 foot. He's taller than me, not hard. He's got great physicality, great aggression, great tackling. Passing was always decent. Dribbling was okay. I'm not going to say he was fantastic at it, but then he also had the pace and the build for it. Lean but tall is always going to work, and that is why every single year he's in, he is going to work. And I cannot wait for the day that we get an icon Sergio Ramos, because that card could be a joke. Now we have the calm before the storm. This is between 1 to 2 million. I cannot believe that I have to break up 500 to a million to 2, and then 2 and above. And genuinely 2 and above have gone over the full 11. It is probably one of the first years where we've got so many different cards as well. Not just like we could have 15 Ronaldos all over 2 million. That's fair enough. But the amount of different players that we've got over that amount of price is crazy. Now, if I'm looking at a spotlight for this, Virgil is obviously in this one. If I'm going for the 90, I'd rather just go for the gold. 1 million coins for the same card, just one upgrade. Go the gold. Save yourself 950,000. If I'm looking else, future star Carlos, impeccable. Mendy, just as good as Teo. You could argue between the two of them. Obviously, with Furland, he's coming in a bit more expensive, so maybe you'd save yourself a little bit and go for Teo. Baka, again, nice upgrade for her. She's now got the 4-4. She is 1.3 million more expensive than the previous version, and she does have the block playstyle plus. You could argue between, but to be honest, I would much rather have gone for the SBC. The only difference is, if you've not finished the SBC, unfortunately at this point in time, you can't actually get her at all. We have got Yashin, Maldini as two of the icon centre-backs that are just a brilliant pairing that you can go for. Maldini was the SBC. He has got multiple versions as well, but Maldini's always been incredible for me. Love him. He's in the team and he absolutely rocks it. Whereas I think Yashin is that extra build, the shapeshifter, a keeper coming out of net, just reminds us of Czech. Czech was broken. Yashin is close to being broken. He's not quite there, but he is still a phenomenal centre-back. We then also have De Ligt. Could have the upgrade, whether we see Bayern really get out of their troubles and really start smashing the league. That could turn him either into a 90, a 91, or even a 93. That would be a very good kind of price point for him. 1.2 would definitely go up if he managed to get into that 92 mark as well, because that is going to be a very decent upgrade on the card. And then finally we have got Tomori, Gravadal at... It is Gravadal, isn't it? 1.6 for the UCL. Now, in terms of Road to the Finals, I hate the promo. I think the promo is trash. Genuinely, the overpricedness of what we've got there is crazy. I don't even remember last year or the year before on how expensive they were, but it seems this year that every man and his dog has got 1 million coins slapped on him. We're looking at Ansu Fati at 2 million. Like, why? Same with Gravadal, to be honest. Like, he's a good card, good pace. Decent defender and physical, never going to argue. Great dribbling on him. Got the block playstyle plus, can also play left back. But 1.6 mil. I can literally go buy a Virgil for 50. I don't understand where that market's coming in at. I get that he could go quite far in it. But then the argument is still, by the time he gets to that point, the card is not going to be worth that much. Like, it just won't be. Even if they won the final and got to, like, what, the 92, 93 upgrade with a 5-5, fantastic. But, like, we don't need him. Like, you could still argue Virgil then. So I just don't understand that promo in my eyes of how everybody is so expensive. We then also have Battle, lovely team of the year, 1.9, 95 pace, 91 defending. She's got the business. The jockey plus, decent for a fullback. Incisive pass is never going to be one to be messed up. And she could also play left back as well. It's always an interesting one. But then we do have the Thunderstruck Carfu, which for me is one of the better right backs on the game completely. 1.5. I'd argue you should probably just go for the base instead of paying an extra 1 million coins for the right back. But if you was lucky enough to get him from an icon pick, then you are doing something right. Now this is 2 mil plus. There's a lot of cards. Granted, a lot of them are Team of the Years, which is fair enough. We do have two different Virgils. We have 2.9, we have Extinct at 5 mil, and we have Extinct at 15 mil. Take it what you will. I genuinely think he is the most expensive defender we have ever had. I don't think there's been a centre-back that has ever been extinct for this long at 15 million coins. It's crazy. That is how good he is. I would love to get my hands on this centre-back version. Whether we do get a team of the season, I feel like he more than likely will push himself in there. But you more than likely will get an incredible card again that hopefully isn't extinct because he looks beautiful as a centre-back. We have multiple Maldinis as well, 4 mil and also 2.5. Again, both of them absolutely incredible. I kind of like the look of a quick step Maldini. Could be really interesting as a centre-back. But the only difference, I think, with that Maldini is the 94. I don't know if he's lengthy. He is mostly lengthy at the moment and can go into either mostly lengthy or controlled lengthy. So you have got the arguments between the two. If you looked at the 93, I want to say that one is fully lengthy. He is mostly lengthy as well with no ability to go there. Can the 92? Okay, so no... Wow. No Maldini can go lengthy. Like fully, like pure lengthy. Virgil's lengthy, isn't he? Yeah, Virgil's pure lengthy. I was thinking then. So maybe that's where the argument for Maldini really is the fact he's not pure lengthy. Now, I'm just doing my research. Really, I should do it prior. But, yeah, I was going to say Kumpit is pure lengthy as well. And I'm assuming Rio is as well. Because we've got some iconic centre-backs here that I kind of want to go with. Mostly lengthy, but can go into lengthy with an anchor. Makes sense for the Rio. So, if I'm looking at this, obviously we take out the kind of multiple versions. I just had to put these in as the pricing is absolutely nuts. In terms of centre-backs that we're looking the top of the top, I'm looking at Virgil. I'm looking at Kompany. I'm looking at Rio. I arguably would say Lucio is going to be in there. I don't know whether he's going to be pure lengthy actually because he's 89 rated now. He's mostly lengthy with the ability to go lengthy. So realistically we're looking at, I'm going to say 92 Lucio. Whether we see I'd probably imagine it's going to be 91 with the ability to go 93. But hopefully 91, 92 at a minimum. I really hope they don't go 90. For then the fact he could go 91 or 92. But I'd put him in this list as well. And then we've got Maldini. They are my favourite 4-5 defenders. Like, hands down, they are going to be it for the most priced centre-backs. Arguably, I'd go Virgil Rio or Virgil Kompany, depending on how good this Lucio is. If Lucio comes in with anticipate and, to be honest, Kompany probably does it best. Anticipate intercept, anticipate aerial, anticipate slide tackle like Rio. That's really the only two that I'd say he would push himself in this top 3. Otherwise, he either puts himself above Maldini or below Maldini. So it will be an interesting one to see on Friday. When we have the other centre-backs, we have Renard, who is definitely underrated massively in terms of talked about. Anticipate aerial, 2 beautiful playstyle pluses, alongside 87 pace, 96 defending, 90 physical, being... I'm hoping pure lengthy. Mostly lengthy, unfortunately. Oh, she can even be controlled with an artist. Fair enough. But she is still putting herself at the top of the top with Team of the Years. I'd argue that she could be better than Ruben Diaz. Ruben Diaz more than likely strikes me as a pure lengthy type, purely on the pace perspective. He is, mostly lengthy. So maybe the stats are pulling him away. Intercept bruiser, definitely not the worst you can go. And Marquinhos, purely as a upgraded point of view, could become really, really decent. Anticipate is what we want straight away, and then having the power header as well is very good. The main thing that will put Marquinhos at the top is the upgrades. He could go to 94. If he was to do that, absolute chef's kiss. He's going to put himself in the top 6, top 7 defenders on this game. When we look at the fullbacks, Teo is coming in at 5.6. Frimpong is at 3.8, Sakina is 2.1, and Furlan Mendy is just under 6 million coins. Wow. I don't know if I've ever seen fullbacks this expensive either, to be honest. They are all absolute top quality. If you could argue, would I go... I don't know who I'd go. Would I go Teo or would I go... I'd probably go Furlan Mendy. As a difference, Teo or Furlan Mendy, then Sakina. I'd then go Frimpong is just the Frimpong of the right backs. Great. Rapid and whip pass is just a broken. And then Virgil Rio. The defensive partnership there would be outstanding. And that is the top of the absolute top. Let me know down below who you've got in your backline of 4 or 5 or even 3. And I'll catch you all for the next one. Peace.